So far we've seen that if happiness depends on feeling pleasant sensations, then in order to be happier, we need to re-engineer our biochemical system. If happiness is based on feeling that life is meaningful, then in order to be happier, we need to delude ourselves more effectively. Is there perhaps another way of understanding happiness? One alternative that receives growing attention from scholars of happiness is the Buddhist view of happiness. Buddhism assigned the question of happiness more importance than perhaps any other religion in history. The main question of monotheist religions is, given that God exists, what does He want from me? In contrast, the main question of Buddhism is, given that suffering exists, how do I get liberated from suffering and enjoy happiness? Therefore, for the last 2,500 years, Buddhists have systematically studied the essence and causes of happiness, which is why there is a growing interest among the scientific community in Buddhism, both in Buddhist philosophy and in Buddhist meditation practices. For example, today, brain scientists are taking Buddhist monks and ask them to sit in the laboratory and meditate, and they connect them to all kinds of electrodes and brain scanners and scan their brains to see what happens when these monks meditate. There's a lot of researches of this kind going around today. Buddhism shares the basic insight of the biological approach to happiness, namely that happiness results from processes occurring within one's body and not from events happening in the outside world. So this is something very similar in Buddhism and in the biological approach to happiness. However, starting from the same insight, Buddhism reaches very different conclusion. According to Buddhism, most people identify happiness with the pleasant sensations and feelings in their body, while identifying suffering with unpleasant feelings. People consequently ascribe immense importance to what they feel. People crave to experience more and more pleasures, while avoiding as much as possible pain and unpleasant feelings. Whatever people do, whatever we do throughout our lives, whether we scratch our leg, or we move slightly in the chair, or we fight world wars, whatever we do, we are just trying to get pleasant feelings. The problem, according to Buddhism, is that our feelings are no more than fleeting vibrations, changing every moment like the waves in the ocean. If 5 minutes ago I felt very joyful and purposeful, now these feelings from 5 minutes ago, they are gone. And I might well feel sad and dejected. So if I want to experience pleasant feelings, I have to constantly chase them while constantly driving away the unpleasant feelings. Even if I succeed, I immediately have to start all over again without ever getting any lasting reward for all my troubles, because these pleasant feelings from 5 minutes ago, they are gone. I have again and again and again to chase them and to get them. What then, asks Buddhism, what is so important about obtaining such ephemeral prizes? Why struggle so hard throughout our lives to achieve something that disappears almost as soon as it arises? These vibrations, these feelings. According to Buddhism, the root of suffering is not the feeling of pain, and not the feeling of sadness, and not even the feeling of meaninglessness. Rather, according to Buddhism, the real root of suffering is this never-ending and pointless pursuit of ephemeral feelings, which causes us to be in a constant state of tension, of restlessness, and dissatisfaction. Because of this pursuit of pleasant feelings, the mind, our mind, is never satisfied with reality as it is. Even when we experience something pleasant, some pleasant feeling, we are not content because our mind fears that this feeling might soon disappear, and we crave that this feeling should stay and intensify. People are liberated from suffering not when they experience this or that fleeting pleasure which immediately disappears, but rather people are liberated from suffering when they understand the impermanent nature of all their feelings and therefore stop craving them and chasing them. And this is the aim of Buddhist meditation practices. In meditation, you're supposed to closely observe your own mind and body, to witness for yourself the ceaseless arising and passing of all your feelings, and thereby to realize how pointless it is to chase after them, to pursue them. And when the pursuit stops, the mind becomes very relaxed, very clear, very satisfied. All kinds of feelings still go on arising and passing. There is still joy and anger and boredom and lust that arise and pass. But once you stop craving to have particular feelings, then you can accept whatever comes. You can accept whatever feelings that comes, just watching it coming and going without losing your head over them. The resulting serenity, according to the Buddhist view, the resulting serenity is so profound that people who go on living their lives in a frenzied pursuit of pleasant feelings can hardly even begin to imagine what it is like to be outside of this pursuit. Now, this idea is so alien to modern Western culture that when Western New Age movements encountered Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist meditation and all these Buddhist insights, they turned them upside down, turned them on their head. New Age cults frequently argue that happiness does not depend on external conditions in the outside world. Happiness depends only on what we feel inside. So people should stop pursuing external achievements such as wealth and beauty and status, and instead connect with their inner feelings. Or, as many New Age cults put it in brief, happiness begins within. Now, this is exactly what biologists argue, but it is more or less opposite of what Buddha said. Buddha agreed with modern biology and with modern New Age movements that happiness is independent of external conditions. Yet, his more important and far more profound insight was that true happiness is also independent of our inner feelings. Indeed, the more significance that we give our inner feelings, the more we crave for them and the more we suffer. The basic recommendation of Buddhism is not merely to slow down the pursuit of external achievements, but above all, to slow down the pursuit of inner feelings. If we accept this view of happiness, then our entire understanding of the history of happiness might be misguided. Maybe it isn't so important whether people enjoy pleasant feelings and whether people feel that their life has meaning. The main question is whether people understand the truth about the nature of their feelings. And what evidence do we have that people today in the 21st century understand this truth any better than ancient foragers or medieval peasants.